If you feel like food is always on your mind, not just when you're hungry, but constantly in the background, there's a deeper reason for that, and it's probably not what you think. Most advice focuses on discipline or emotional eating, but one of the biggest reasons people think about food all day is that their brains have learned to treat food as a form of stimulation, not just fuel. Hi, I'm Zita, a fitness and nutrition coach, and with my partner Terry, a neuropsychology and body image coach, we help men and women over 40 to escape diet prison and build strong, lean bodies through science-based training, nutrition, and behavior change, all without extremes. So hit that like button and subscribe for weekly videos on fat loss, muscle building, and training smarter after 40. By saying that, I want to highlight that emotional eating is real. It's only part of the picture. It doesn't really explain why you think about food all day, even if you're not hungry. This narrative research paper by Burridge and Robinson shows that the brain separates liking or pleasure from wanting, aka craving and drive. Over time, repeated exposure to rewarding foods increases wanting without necessarily increasing liking. So in other words, you can strongly crave and think about food even if you don't actually enjoy it more, which explains why people feel driven to eat even when they're not hungry. If your day feels repetitive, stressful, or mentally draining, your brain naturally looks for something that gives it a quick shift. Something that feels good, even just briefly. And food is one of the fastest ways to do that. It gives you a break, a reward, something to look forward to. How many times you find yourself getting home after a stressful day and you say, I'm gonna have a glass of wine and a bar of chocolate because I deserve it, because I had a hard day. So what starts happening is this: your brain begins to associate food with relief, not just hunger. And once that association is built, you don't just think about food when you need it. You think about it whenever you want to feel different. That's why you can be physically full, but still thinking about snacks, treats, or your next meal. So for example, this paper by Dr. Nora Walco et al. Demonstrates that highly palatable foods activate the same dopamine-based reward pathways in the brain as addictive substances. And this means food can become a source of stimulation, relief, and habit, not just fuel, especially when it's used repeatedly in response to either stress, boredom, or emotional triggers. And one of the most effective ways to break that isn't just through nutrition, it's by changing how you structure your day. If food is currently like the most exciting or rewarding part of your routine, your brain will keep coming back to it. So willpower or discipline is just not gonna cut it. So instead of trying to suppress those thoughts, you need to give your brain alternative sources of stimulation. That could be something as simple as changing your environment during the day, breaking up long work periods, taking a short walk, doing some stretches, or even having something planned you genuinely look forward to that isn't food, such as a long bath, or going to the spa, or a day trip to a new place. Go for a hike, or even a concert, or a weekend getaway, whatever that is that you like doing. Because when your brain has other anchors in the day, food stops being the default one. Another angle most people don't consider is decision fatigue. If you're constantly thinking about what to eat, what you should avoid, whether you've been good or bad, you're creating a mental loop that keeps food front and center. So the more decisions you have to make, the more your brain just circles back to it. So one of the simplest ways to reduce food thoughts is to reduce food decisions. This is where having repeatable meals or like a loose structure actually helps. Or you can just plan your meals out for the rest of the week, create them, and you don't need to think about it. But not in a restrictive way, but in a way that removes constant negotiation with yourself. What am I going to have next? You already know what you're having, so you don't need to debate it all day. And that alone can quiet a huge amount of mental noise. Another important piece is what I call mental restriction. Even if you're not physically restricting food, if you're constantly telling yourself you shouldn't have something or you're trying to be good, your brain is still in that restriction mindset. And that mental restriction often creates even more obsession than physical restriction. So you might technically allow yourself certain foods, let's say go with chocolate, but if you're eating them with guilt and hesitation and you're telling yourself, I shouldn't have this, but I'm just going to have it anyway, your brain still treats them as something special or scarce. That's why learning to eat certain foods just naturally without like labeling them as good or bad is such a big shift. It reduces their emotional charge. When the emotional charge drops, so does the constant thinking. Ladies over 40, we have a free training on how to lose menopausal belly fat and rocking a bikini after 40. So hit the link in the description below and watch it now. Another thing that's often overlooked is how much your environment drives your thoughts. If food is always visible, easily accessible, it's on the kitchen counter, or tied to specific habits, just such as watching TV, working at your desk, or scrolling on your phone, your brain will keep linking those moments to eating. And over time, those cues become automatic triggers. So sometimes reducing food thoughts is not just about changing your mindset, but about changing your environment just enough to break those associations. So even small changes like not keeping certain foods inside or changing where you eat, these can make a noticeable difference. And finally, one of the biggest shifts is understanding that you don't need to eliminate thoughts about food completely. It's impossible, it's unrealistic. We need to eat to stay alive. Food is part of life. And the goal is not to never think about it, but it's to stop it from dominating your attention. To get to a point where food is just something you eat, not something you're constantly negotiating with in your head. So if that's you, if you're thinking about food all day, don't just ask, how do I stop this? Ask this question, what role is food currently playing in my life? Because once you understand that, you can start replacing it, structuring it, and normalizing it instead of fighting it. And that's when actually you will notice that things start to feel calm again. And this is actually one of the most common struggles we helped our clients overcome successfully, including sugar addiction. And if you would like to work with us, you can schedule a free video consultation and where we can talk about your goals and just to see if we are a good fit. The link is in the description below. And next, I want you to watch this video where I explain why you should stop dieting if you want to lose fat, especially if you're a man or a woman over 40.